Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll get started. Welcome. So, fitting the theme of Nutrition Month for March, I'm thrilled to introduce today's Wellness Wednesday, building a balanced plate for healthy living, healthy aging, and brain health. I'm Deanna, your program assistant for the BC Brain Wellness Program, and I'll be your MC for today's event. And we're thrilled to have two fantastic guests with us. Anna Briscoe, a registered dietitian and lecturer in dietetics education at UBC, brings a multifaceted background in nutrition, blending studies in biology and culinary training with diverse experience in roles ranging from residential care to community nonprofits. Their holistic philosophy emphasizes the importance of balancing nutrition with social and cultural factors, making healthy choices both enjoyable and sustainable. And from our very own BC Brain Wellness Program team, Yolanda Wang, a registered dietitian and ACSM certified personal trainer, passionate about guiding clients towards a healthy lifestyle. With a background in dietetics and kinesiology from UBC, she has worked in various settings, including acute care and gestational diabetes clinics. Yolanda is thrilled to merge her expertise in nutrition and exercise as she contributes to research projects with the BC Brain Wellness Program. So together, they'll be tackling some common nutrition concerns, such as what to cook or prepare when your energy levels are low, addressing nutrition deficiencies as we age, and practical ways to incorporate this knowledge into your daily routine. Our event today will unfold in two parts. First, an insightful slide presentation, followed by an exciting cooking demo to bring those tips to life. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that BC Brain Wellness Program at the Joad Moafagian Center for Brain Health resides on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam people. As a settler here myself, it's crucial to recognize the profound relationship we have with Indigenous peoples and the land, and to continuously honor and nurture these connections. We're privileged to be able to offer programs like the Brain Wellness Program on Musqueam land. As we gather from various locations today, I urge each and every one of us to pause and reflect on the history of the land we inhabit. You can explore more about the land's history through the resource provided in the chat. Let's take this moment to deepen our understanding and respect for Indigenous communities and the territories we occupy. I would like to also take a moment to thank our program donors for supporting the BC BWP. Because of your generosity, we are able to provide these educational events and our online classes, creating accessibility to anyone and everyone. As an entirely donor-funded program, we rely on your generosity to ensure the continuation and development of our program. So thank you so much for your ongoing support. Without further ado, I will pass on the Zoom mic to our guest speakers. The floor is all yours, Anna and Yolanda. Welcome.
Thank you, Diana. Hi, everyone. I'm Yolanda.
Hi, I'm Anna.
All right. Welcome to our Wellness Wednesday. Just thanks for Diana for introducing ourselves. And before we start, we would like to share some disclosure.
Yeah, and so just to start, this is an educational event. It's not meant to replace individualized medical guidance or nutrition therapy, and we'll give some more links at the end of how to access dietitians in BC. And I just wanted to point out that I have received some funding from the Vancouver Coastal Health Research Institute to support these nutrition initiatives in collaboration with the BC Brain Wellness Program.
Yeah. And as a dietitian working at BC Brain Wellness Program, my research position is funded by the Western Family Foundation, Pacific Parkinson Research Institute, and the clinic position is funded by Parkinson Foundation US. And my work also is indirectly supported by all other private donors of the Brain Wellness Program. So thank you, everyone. Okay. And for today, our learning outcomes, we hope that by the end of this session, you will able to appreciate the importance of building a balanced plate using Canada's food guide, feel able to assess your meals and snacks for balanced nutrition, and develop confidence to try new recipes and tips.
Yeah, and just to, again, sort of reiterate our time together, we're just going to start with a little bit of background. Yolanda will present around healthy eating and healthy aging and how that relates to the Canada Food Guide. We'll do a little activity together, and then in part 2, we'll do some awesome recipes. So I will disappear for now and turn it over to Yolanda for the first part.
All right, so before we talk about nutrition, we want to first make sure we're on the same page about what is healthy aging. So WHO defines healthy aging as the process of developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in older age. And the functional ability requires the mental and physical capacities that a person can draw on and and includes their ability to walk, think, see, hear, and remember. So as you can see, the brain health, the mental health is an important part of healthy aging as well. And how can healthy eating help you with healthy aging? Well, it can help you keep your energy levels up. It can help you remain independent in your daily living and maintain good mental health, stay positive, and prevent or manage chronic diseases and maintain a healthy body composition. Research have shown that a healthy eating pattern like the Mediterranean diet here can help with is associated reduced risk of a certain disease and overall mortality. So as you can see in this picture from Danu et al.'s paper, that the green ones are the ones that we have more convincing evidence showing that the Mediterranean diet pattern can help with the disease or the mortality rate. And as you can see, that includes the overall mortality, the cardiovascular disease, the overall cancer incidence, the neurodegenerative disease. That includes the Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease specifically as well, and overall dementia and diabetes. And for brain health, WHO defines brain health as the state of brain functioning across cognitive, sensory, social, emotional, behavioral, and motor domains, allowing a person to realize their full potential over the life course, irrespective of the presence or absence of disorders. It is part of healthy aging. Brain health is not independent of the overall body's health status. So whatever is healthy for our whole body is of course healthy for our brain. The improvement of the overall dietary quality is related to the reduced depressive symptoms, and the healthy eating dietary patterns such as Mediterranean diet, MIND diet, and DASH diet are associated with the reduced cognitive decline. So for those of you who are not familiar what DASH diet and MIND diet is, DASH means dietary approaches to stop hypertension, and MIND means the Mediterranean DASH intervention for neurodegenerative delay. And Mediterranean diet is related to the reduce of neurodegenerative disease, like you've seen in the past slides. And there are several individual nutrients have been mentioned to potentially promote brain health. However, the evidence is really inconclusive. And we really want to recommend like overall healthy eating patterns than focusing on the individual nutrients, because we eat food, not just the nutrients. And here's a summary of what the MIND diet, the DASH diet, and the Mediterranean diet is about. Of course, there are always different versions for the Mediterranean diet you might have seen online, but generally they all recommend they all have the similar patterns, such as encouraging the vegetable and fruit intake, the whole grain intake, the nuts intake, beans intake, and olive oil, and fish intake. So nuts and beans are plant-based proteins, and olive oil is a good source of unsaturated fat. So we're going to talk about those individual food groups later on in the slides. A good way to start building a healthy dietary habits is by following Canada's Food Guide's Healthy Plate model. It doesn't matter if you are following a specific dietary pattern or not. When it comes to each meal and snack, the goal is to build a balanced diet or a balanced bowl or even a balanced snack box. We also want to mention that apart from a balanced plate, there are also important factors that we take into consideration of a healthy eating habit that include being mindful of what you eat, cooking more often, enjoy your food, and eat meals with others. So you can find more information about this on the Canada's Food Guide website. The link is there. Now back to the nutrition consideration behind a balanced plate. What we want to make sure is that we are getting enough nutrients from our food. This includes the macronutrients that provide us energy and the micronutrients that support the utilization of this energy. Today, our focus is on the macronutrients here. Even though they all provide us energy, each of them have their unique and important role. So first, what is protein? As an essential part of your diet, they help us build and maintain and repairs our body. It keeps our muscles strong and also keep our hair, our nail, and our skin healthy. It helps us recover if we've been ill or if we just had any surgery. So just to test our knowledge here, can you name a few food sources of protein? If you can share your answer in the chat box, that would be great. I will give you maybe 30 seconds to a minute or so.
So we're seeing a few things here.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken, salmon, eggs, tofu as well,
Mm-hmm.
legumes, fish comes again, beans, nuts, quinoa is another one, cheese.
Great. All those answers are pretty right on. I also listed some source of protein here. Like some of you already mentioned, there's meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, the dairy products, including milk, cheese, yogurt, kefir, and nuts and seeds and legumes that include lentils and beans, and also bean product like tofu and soy beverages. And I'm surprised someone mentioned quinoa because that's right. Whole grains is also a good source of protein. Now, another question. Can you think of any protein food options that require minimal or no prep time when you're really busy and doesn't have time to cook? What can you go for?
So a few things coming in the chat. Nuts, cheese, canned salmon, protein bar as well. A lot more nuts, fruits and veggies.
Great. Yeah. So a lot of dairy product is definitely a good options like milk or Greek yogurt or cheese. It doesn't require any cooking in advance, or canned food. Canned fish is definitely a good options, and especially canned salmon, sardines or mackerel. They can be a good source of omega-3. And also canned lentils and canned beans are also great options that require zero cooking. You can just throw them in a salad or put them in some pre-made sauce and add into your snack and meals to make it more balanced. Later on, Anna will show you some good ways to use the canned lentils as well. All right. Now we move on to carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are important nutrients for your brain, heart, lungs, and other organs to function. It is the primary fuel to our body. It keep you active, and it's good to take some carbohydrate before you exercise, so you can feel energetic when you're exercising. And it's also good to take some carbohydrate after exercise to support the repairment and recovery of your body. Now come to the question, which food groups contain carbohydrate? So I guess I didn't really talk about the food group before we start, but we have three food groups on the plate here. We have the fruit and vegetable group that makes half of your plate. And we also have the protein food groups, that's a quarter of your plate. And also the whole grain or the grain food groups, that's another quarter of your plate. So which food group do you think contain carbohydrates? Please put in your chat box.
Bread, potatoes, the whole grain and protein.
Yeah, those are the grain group. Someone mentioned protein have some carbohydrate. Some protein food have carbohydrate as well. Yes, some of them does have carbohydrate.
All of them. One of them. One of the answers said all of them.
One of them said all. Okay, so we will leave the answer to a few slides after to see which groups actually have carbohydrates. So there are three main types of carbohydrate. The first one is sugar, or it also called simple carbohydrate. It can be digested quickly and send immediate burst of energy into our bloodstream. And so, of course, candies or sweets are a source of simple carbohydrate or sugar, and all the sweeteners, honey, brown sugar, white sugar, maple syrup is a source of carbohydrate as well. Simple carbohydrate as well, and fruits have some simple sugar there. That's why it tastes sweet. And some vegetables have simple sugar in them, such as garlic and onion. That's why they caramelize when you're cooking them. And of course, dairy products have some simple carbohydrate there as well. And the second type of carbohydrate is starches. They are complex carbohydrate, digested more slowly by comparison, and supply a slower release of glucose into our bloodstreams. And some source of starches are the grain product, the starchy vegetables like yam and potatoes, corns. Some people categorize them as grains as well. Some people categorize them as vegetables, but either way, they will have some starches in them. And of course, our legume options will provide us with some starches. So some people were saying that the protein group also sometimes provide the carbohydrates. So they are right about that. And the third type of carbohydrate is fiber. They are substances found naturally in plants. They help lower blood cholesterol levels, control blood sugar, and may help prevent high blood pressure. They help to keep you satisfied and full for longer, because our body can't break them down effectively, and they will go through our gut and digestive system, and they will get to the colon, where they will be broken down by all the bacteria and fungi that live in our gut. And it keeps our digestive system working more regular, so it might help prevent constipation. And some types of fibers are considered prebiotic. So the prebiotics are the food that are beneficial. The prebiotics are the food for the beneficial microorganism in our gut. And the source of fiber include whole grains, the breads or baked goods and pastas made with whole grains, vegetables and fruit, legumes, and nuts and seeds, especially flaxseed and chia seed, which are pretty high in fiber. So whoever said all the groups have carbohydrate, you're right, because we can get carbohydrate from all the food groups. Now we move on to fat. So fat supplies our body with energy. It builds the structure of our cell membrane, and is an essential nutrients in our diet because some of the fat molecules we cannot generate within our body. And the type of fat include unsaturated fats, which we see more from the plant-based food, except fish and seafoods, and saturated fat, which we see more coming from the animal-based food, except some plant-based oil like coconut oil, which have more saturated fat, and trans fat, which naturally included in beef, lamb, and butter fat. We can there's also artificial trans fat, but it has been banned from Health Canada as of September 2020. So you can't find those in the supermarket anymore. For unsaturated fat, they are usually liquid at room temperature. And they are predominantly found in foods from plant, like I mentioned, and fish and seafood. Including saturated fat as a part of healthy diet can improve blood cholesterol levels and promote heart health. So some of the food sources include fatty fish, nuts and seeds, vegetable oils, wheat germ, avocados, and food fortified with omega-3. Okay, now we learned all about the 3 different macronutrients, and I'm gonna give you a summary about what macronutrients each food group contain. So the first food group, fruit and vegetables, they have both simple and complex carbohydrate. Their fat they provide is mainly unsaturated fat, and they are not usually considered a significant food source for protein. But some of the vegetables do have higher protein content, like spinach. And for the macronutrients, which we didn't talk too much about today, they also contain good vitamins and mineral sources such as folate, vitamin C, vitamin E, magnesium, and potassium. And they are the fruit and vegetables are considered as nutrient-dense foods because they have more of those micronutrients for the same amount of energy or the calorie compared to other foods. The nutrient content varies depending on what types of fruit and vegetable you're taking, and that's why it's recommended to include a variety in your diet. So that's why we always say eat your rainbow, because they can provide complementary vitamins and minerals. And the next food groups, the grain, they provide complex carbohydrate like starch and fiber. The fat they provide is mainly unsaturated, and the fat, unsaturated fat is higher in whole grain. And they also have a higher protein content compared to the refined grain. And just considering of the time, I'm not going to talk too much about the difference between whole grain and refined grain, but we will share the slides after the presentation so you can have detailed look about what whole grain, what kind of vitamins and mineral whole grain can provide. And then we talk about protein foods. So of course they are a source of protein, but like we mentioned, they can also provide starches and fibers, especially the plant-based protein like tofu, beans, lentils, and certain vegetables. And for fat, that kind of different depends on if you're getting protein from plant-based food or animal-based. Plant-based food mainly contain unsaturated fat, and animal-based protein food mainly contain saturated fat, except fish and seafood. And for micronutrients, again, it really depends on what type of protein food you're choosing. They can provide vitamin A, B vitamins, iron, zinc, and calcium. And again, the variety is pretty important here. Okay, now we come to an activity, how to make a balanced plate. So a reminder that the balanced plate is made up with all three food groups. They have a variety of different fruits and vegetables. They have sources of unsaturated fat, well, on the side, it's good to have some unsweetened beverages such as water to go with your meal and snacks. Okay, so our first plate is kale salad with Kanjang salmon. So can you name what can be added to make it more balanced plate? Please put your answer in the chat. There's no one single right answer. You can be creative. What kind of food that you're familiar with that can be added to make it more balanced?
So we have nuts, quinoa, eggs,
Mm-hmm.
grain bread. Yeah, whole grains in general, some cheese,
Mm-hmm.
a variety here, good dressing. That's
That's important. All right, thanks for the answers. Yes, so so how can we make sure that it's balanced? We're going to look at what kind of food groups are there, right? So we can see the fish, which is the protein food group, and the kale, which is the fruit and vegetable group. Maybe there's some carrot and pepper. There's also fruit and vegetables. So what's missing there is the grain food group, right? So we can add some whole grain bread, like you mentioned, or quinoa is a good source of whole grain as well. And yeah, of course, you can add a little bit more cheese for the flavor, or chopped out egg in it as well. Just make it more, just have more variety, like we were talking about. So yeah, it's not a bad decision, but yeah, definitely we want to add a little bit more grain product there. Okay, now we have a breakfast example. So we have scrambled eggs on whole wheat toast. What is missing there? What do you want to add to make it more balanced?
veggies. Veggies again.
What kind of veggies?
Spinach,
Mm-hmm.
peppers, tomato. Somebody else said avocado. That's good.
Yep,
Yep.
right. Yeah, so those are all great suggestions. Yes, we're missing the fruit and vegetable group. So if you have some tomatoes, you can put some maybe chop up cherry tomato on top. Or if you want to fry the tomato with the eggs, it's like a famous Chinese dish. Or you can put some spinach under the eggs, between the egg and toast, or lettuce. Or you can make it omelet with some mushroom, pepper fried into it for sure. Or if you don't have vegetable on hand, you can also have an apple on the side for the fruit and vegetable, because you don't have to always have the vegetable. You can also have a fruit there as well. Okay, so considering of the time, maybe I will just skip some of this activities, but you can use it as a kind of idea or activity you can do with your family and friends as well when you're at home. Now we want to reflect on what's your midday meal today, and is it balanced? Does it have all the food groups? And do they have some heart healthy fats? So the unsaturated fat. And if doesn't have some part of it, what could you add to make it balanced or increase the nutrient of this meal? Here's some of the other thoughts. Okay, so as you're reflecting about your midday meal, we're gonna take a 2-minute stretch break, and after we come back, Anna gonna lead you to how to. Anna gonna provide you some amazing demonstration on how to make a balanced snack or meal. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn off my Mac and camera for a bit, and we'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes.
Hello, welcome back. Maybe that was a minute or two less than 2 or 3 minutes, but we're here and really excited to share some recipes with you today. So the first recipe we're going to do, and we're going to share the PDF afterwards so you can follow along if you want to replay it and make it on your own. But the first recipe is going to be a zippy herb dip. And so I've got all the ingredients here on the kitchen camera to show you what we've got. So we've got some Greek yogurt, we've got some lovely green vegetables, we've got a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of fruit, and I'll just talk through that. So it's going to be really easy to put together. We're going to put it together in a blender, or you could do it in an immersion blender. You can do it in a little chopper, which is what I'm going to use. But it allows you not to have to do all that chopping and get something really fresh and tasty. And, we often think things that are, nutritious might be more bland, but this is full of flavor and full of deliciousness. So, we're going to start with our ingredients. So we've got here, does anyone know what this is? You can throw it into the chat. It looks like some bit of a look-alike vegetable or herb.
Lisa,
Yep.
Cilantro, coriander.
Actually not. This is a flat leaf parsley, but it does look like cilantro. And if it smells like Italian parsley or something called flat leaf parsley, and so it's got a really nice flavor. You could absolutely do this dip with cilantro, and then it would be excellent with South Asian food or with Mexican food. But for today, we're going to do it with parsley. And so we've got 1 cup of parsley. You can just pluck off the leaves. If you have a hardier blender, you can put the stems in as well, but otherwise you can save those stems for a stock. We don't want to waste anything, so we're going to just dump those parsley in there. So we've got our 1 cup of parsley. And then our next ingredient is going to be this one. Does anyone know what we've got here? Probably more common. It's got a couple names.
Anyone in the chat want to take a guess? Green onion.
Green onion, also called scallions. Yeah, so we've got our green onion here. And so I just chopped it into a few pieces with the scissors, so it's a little bit easier, so it fits in nicely. But yeah, I like a good kitchen scissor, so I've got that, so it makes it easy to cut into pieces. We're just gonna throw that in there too. So we've got our scallions in there. Then our next ingredient is going to be our little bit of olive oil. Again, we've got our heart healthy oils. And the reason we're doing this is because our Greek yogurt, which we're going to add after, is really high in protein, but very, very low in fat, usually 0%. And so if you don't add a little bit of fat to it, it doesn't make it very delicious because it doesn't have that nice mouthfeel that you like from a dip. So I'm going to dump in our olive oil, just 1 tablespoon there. Put our olive oil in, and then we're going to add a few more flavorful ingredients. So we've got a little bit of sweetness, and you could add a little bit of brown sugar, no harm adding a little bit of sugar, but we're just going to add a few pieces of cut up dates today. So just sort of the equivalent of 1 or 2 dates. They'll be a little chunky in there. So we're going to add those in, and I'm actually going to swap out where the camera is so that you can see what we're doing. So that's our dates, and we're going to save the rest for another thing. And then keep my workstation clear, obviously. Our next 2 ingredients are going to be some dried spices. So we've got some garlic granules or garlic powder, and you want to watch out that it's not garlic salt, but garlic granules or garlic powder. And then we've got some paprika. So it's not spicy, it's just got a nice sort of smoky flavor, and we're going to add those in. So it's 1 teaspoon of each of them. You can add a little less if you like things a little bit more mild. You can add a full teaspoon if you like that. And so our last 2 ingredients are also going to add some flavor. We've got some Dijon mustard. So that's going to give us a little bit of zippiness and again, increase that flavor. So I'm just going to get it off the spoon. That's 1 teaspoon of mustard. And then our last ingredient besides our yogurt is going to be some lemon zest. So because the Greek yogurt is relatively tangy, it has that sort of acidity to it. So we want to add in some lemon zest. And so you can use a regular box grater. So 1 of these, you can just use the fine side. Don't use the one that's for zest. It's actually very, very hard to get the zest off of it. If you just use the one for the small grating, that works really well. Or if you have a microplane, that can also work. So I'm just going to do a little bit in here. It says 1 teaspoon, but you can put as much or as little as you like. And it just gives it a nice citrus flavor, but without any of the sourness of lemon juice. So all of our ingredients are in there. And so we're just going to turn off the sound for a moment while I blend it because it'll be quite loud. And of course, am I back on? Okay, of course, I forgot to add the yogurt. So you can do it either way. I like to chop up all the herbs first and then add the yogurt, but you can add it all at once, just whatever floats your boat. So I'm going to add in that Greek yogurt, and we're going to end up with a really nice thick dip. And okay, so one more time with the loudness. Just the setup here is not ideal, but we're just so we've got our dip and it's nice and thick. So I'm just going to transfer it to a bowl, and then we're going to use it for our next dish.
Just wanted to jump in, Anna. How much yogurt did you put in there?
It is 3/4 cup of Greek yogurt. So 3/4 cup. And I'm gonna have, you have the recipes, we'll share at the end, and we've got them all there, so it'll be easy to follow along. But 3/4 cup of yogurt. And you can get lactose-free Greek yogurt now, which is great when sometimes people, when they get older, sometimes it's harder to digest lactose, so that can be really handy. And so we have our dip. This recipe makes about a cup of dip. And then we're going to use our dip to make our next dish, which is going to be, so there we go. We've got our dip, and we're going to use it to make a wrap. In the interest of time, I'm actually not going to make the wrap, but I'm just going to show you the ingredients so then we can put it together. So what you're going to do is take some of those canned lentils. As I said, we've got canned lentils. And so this is half a can of lentils, which is about 1 cup. We've got some vegetables to put inside. We've got a little bit of cucumber or another vegetable to put on into our mix. And then we've also got our wrap, and then our last ingredient, which you can also add to the dip if you wanted. But this one is nutritional yeast, and this is a great flavor enhancer. It has sort of a cheesiness and a savory flavor. It's also a good source of B vitamins, particularly B12. So the rest of this dish is very low in B12, being that it's plant-based foods and also some dairy products, which are relatively low in B12. So we're going to put that in there as well. And so if you were making this dip, you just take all of your lentils, a little bit of the vegetables, some more of these dates, and our dip, mix them all together, and then we make ourselves a wrap. And so I'll show you at the end, once we get the next dish cooking, about how to do that. But for now, I'm going to move on to our next dish, which is more of a dip. So this one, if you mix it all together, you've got all of the different food groups. You've got your, your vegetables and fruits, you've got your protein foods, and then you've got your grains from your whole grain wrap. So just going to put this off to the side and grab our ingredients for the second dish. So that's for sort of a lighter meal. And then if we want a little bit more of a hearty meal, then we're going to do a 1-pan braised vegetables and proteins. And then I'll show you the different whole grains you could have with it. So this dish is going to be, we have given you 2 variations. For today, we're going to do the East Asian version, but there are actually 2 versions in the recipe. So there is an East Asian version and a Mediterranean version. And so, because I think it's really important to say that the Mediterranean diet doesn't mean only Mediterranean foods, right? All foods fit, all food cultures fit. And so it's really important to remember that and not get sort of stuck into the idea that the Mediterranean diet requires Mediterranean foods. There are lots of foods you can have. So to start here, we are going to start by prepping our vegetables. And so we're just going to chop them up. These are some fun vegetables because they don't require a lot of prep work. So our first vegetable might be familiar to some of you. We've got what's called suchoy. It's also called Napa cabbage because of ways of immigration to the Napa Valley in California. And I really like this vegetable because it's a cabbage. So it's in the cruciferous vegetable family, but it doesn't take very long to cook and it's quite easy to chop. And so we're just going to cut it into sort of 3-inch pieces, so relatively big pieces. So it's going to cook down. We're going to do that. And then the next thing we're going to add to this is one of our vegetables we're going to put into our pan. We're also going to put kale. And so we've got kale here, and sometimes people say it's often quite tough. And so if you want to make it less tough, what you can do is actually just wash it off fresh from the store and then freeze it. And then when you defrost it, you can see how it's gotten a little bit more soft, and you can just rip it up into pieces. While it's still frozen, it almost crumbles. So there's a lot less work for cutting and just ripping it into some bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to put that. And then if you really don't want to be bothered, you can also buy frozen kale these days. So I'm going to put a bit of that in too, just for fun. So we're going to have frozen kale. Then we're going to come back to our scallions again. These are just an easy onion. So again, you don't need to do too much with it. And I'm just going to use kitchen scissors to cut them, which is a thing a lot of grandmothers around the world know about. But we're just going to cut them in about 2-inch lengths, and they're going to cook in our braised dish. And I like to think about vegetables as being, they can be the star of the show if you want them to be. So I'm really excited about the vegetables, but of course we have to have our protein foods as well. So first have our flavoring, we'll get to that in a second. But our protein foods for this dish is we're actually going to have 2 different protein foods. First one is going to be some fish. And I know people might be concerned, but this is a red snapper. It's a nice, easy fish. I took fairly thin fillets. You can see it's only about, an inch. If it's too thick, it'll take too long to cook. So nice, small pieces. Yeah. And then we're also going to put some tofu. So kind of mixing, because, you could just do tofu for this dish. You could just do fish. This is a medium tofu. And so I just cut it into slices. And so that's going to go on top of our vegetables. So now we're going to actually put it together. I'm just going to very quickly and just show you how that works. So we're just going to put our fish and our proteins together, move that off, and then we're going to get our braise going. So the last thing is going to be our sauce. I'm going to move that forward and bring our pan over. And you could start this on the heat, but we're just going to, for shortcuts, just start it right here so you can see it. So what you're going to do is going to add a little bit more olive oil. So imagine this is a hot pan, and you're just going to warm it up, low heat. We're just going to add a little bit of olive oil, add that flavor, and then we're going to add our flavoring for our stock. So we've got some grated garlic, again, using a box grater or a microplane. And so imagine that's cooking a little bit more than, of course, it is now, but you're just going to get that warmed up. And so it kind of starts to have some caramelization, some fragrance, and you're going to be able to smell it. It's going to smell great. Once that's got some fragrance going on, then we're going to add our stock. So I've got here a no salt added chicken stock. You could also use vegetable stock, whatever you have around. You can use a homemade stock. But again, we're trying to think about flavor, but not necessarily adding a whole bunch of salt. So then we're going to put that in there. And then we take it off the heat. And the next thing we're going to do is just layer in all our vegetables. So again, there's not too much to do here. You just throw in all your vegetables. And there's not going to be as much liquid as there is other stuff, and that's okay because the vegetables are going to cook down. We've got our vegetables, we've got our kale in there as well, and our onions. And again, you could use different vegetables if you wanted to. I've suggested also adding a carrot for some color, but you can do whatever feels good to you. And the most important thing is that we're going to have a little bit of space between our liquid. We're not making a soup today. A little bit of space between our liquid and our fish. So the last step before we put it back onto the heat, we're going to take our protein, put it on top, and then we're going to add our sauce. So we've got our tofus, we'll add our fishes on top. And then for our sauce, we're just going to mix it up in a little bowl. And it's going to be a combination of a few things, mostly for flavors. So we've got we've got some sesame oil for flavor. So sesame is a nice flavorful thing. So 1 to 2 teaspoons of that. I'm just going to put it there so you can see it. We're going to add some coconut aminos, which is a kind of low salt soy sauce alternative. And it's becoming more available, so I thought I'd use it to show you. But you can also use soy sauce, just use less. So we're going to use 2 tablespoons of this low sodium soy substitute. And so usually soy sauce would have around 700 milligrams or even more per tablespoon. And this one has 300. So not none, but 360 is much different than 900. So we're putting in 2 tablespoons. If you were using soy sauce, you would just use 1. We're also going to add some ginger to add that aroma. Yeah, maybe it's complicated, but you can prep all those vegetables ahead of time. So that's the thing, is you can just prep things ahead of time. And if you're interested in cooking for one person, we have some of our students doing a workshop just next week on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, so the 12th, about cooking for one person. So that's perfect segue. So we're just going to add our ginger to our sauce. This is just grated ginger for some flavor, and grated garlic. Again, we're sort of double doing on the garlic, which is, I think, enjoyable, but if you're not as into garlic, you put less. That's okay. And then basically all you need to do, and again, this can all be done ahead of time. You don't have to do any of this prep the day of. You can you're just gonna dump that sauce over your fish and tofu. And then we're just gonna heat it up until it's steaming, put a lid on it, and in 10 minutes, you'll have dinner. It might even be less than 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. So that's that dish. And I think we'll maybe swap just based on the time to be able to do some Q&A. And then we'll come back and I'll show you the finish just before we end. So that's all from the kitchen, and we'll switch back to maybe, for Q&A, and happy to answer any of your questions.
So, yes, moving into Q&A. So one question from earlier was about phosphorus. And so basically, I see that phosphorus is in many foods, including oat milk. Should I be trying to cut down on phosphorus in regards to bone loss? So this is more of a micronutrient question.
That is a very interesting question. In general, I don't think there are any concerns around increasing or decreasing phosphorus, except for in terms of with sometimes during kidney disease, it might be something that needs to be limited. It's really the only case I can think of in terms of phosphorus. It's quite neutral. It doesn't seem to have much impact on our bone metabolism. So it's not something to be concerned about unless you have kidney disease and you've been told by your nephrologist that you need to limit phosphorus. And even then, most of the phosphorus you're limiting is going to be from processed foods, so things like additives, certain foods, not necessarily from whole foods that are part of a balanced diet.
Amazing.
Great question, though.
Okay, awesome. So next question, when you have to keep your blood pressure down and at the same time focusing on brain health, does one look for DASH recipes, or is Mediterranean okay as well?
Yeah, I can answer that. I'm just changing my camera. Yeah, like the slide I was sharing earlier, there's actually a lot of overlapping things between Mediterranean diet and DASH diet. Sorry, this participant, you mind just remind who the participant concern is?
So does one look for DASH recipes, or is the Mediterranean okay?
So does this participant mentioned what's this, are they have any health conditions, any specific?
Keep the blood pressure down. At the same time,
I
focusing
see.
on health. What do you choose, DASH recipes or Mediterranean recipes?
I would say, like I said, there's a lot of overlapping. And if anything, maybe DASH diet was more focused on the sodium intake. I would say if you want to follow Mediterranean diet, but just with being cautious about how much sodium you're having throughout your day, try not to exceed that 2,300 milligrams per day. That would be great. Or like we were saying, does it have to follow a specific dietary patterns? You can just follow the healthy plate models, make sure all your meals and snacks are balanced, and have a variety of food throughout the day. That's always as good as following a specific pattern. If you find following a pattern is a little bit extra work or stressful to think about, but it can be a good and easy guideline. Kind of depends on what kind of person that what kind of format you like to follow. I know some people they really prefer to have a specific guideline so they can plan their weeks and their meals better in advance. So in that case, you can follow like a specific dietary pattern, like a Mediterranean diet. So you know, oh, I should include how many servings of fish or how many servings of nuts and seeds or legumes per week, right? But if for someone that doesn't really want to focus on the number, the servings too much, then you can just follow the healthy plate model, make sure every meal is pretty balanced. Yeah, so again, both of the diet are great, are healthy. But if you have specific worries about the blood pressure, then just watch your sodium on top of the dietary pattern. That answered the question.
Another question, would a person who does not eat grains suffer from nutrient deficiencies?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of case by case scenario. It of course, by eliminating one out of the three main food groups, it will put you at a higher risk than people who are including all three food groups in their diet. However, depending on the specific health or nutrition status this individual is on, if they need to avoid certain food items or food groups for a specific reason. For example, if a person is following a ketogenic diet because of the epilepsy, then it might be good to make sure they are supervised by registered dietitians. So we get checked for specific nutrients that might add a higher risk of having nutrient deficiency regularly, and supplement through the supplementation outside of the food if needed. But if the person doesn't have a specific health condition that require them to exclude the food groups, I would say it would be better to include it just to reduce the risk of having the nutrition deficiency.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, is the coconut amino high in saturated fats not so great for cholesterol levels?
So the coconut aminos actually come from the sap of the coconut tree instead of the coconut fruit itself. So it actually have no fat or lipids. If you want to check the nutrition label at the back, it says 0 fat and lipids. So there won't be concern in terms of the cholesterol from the fat perspective or heart health perspective. Yeah.
One last question here. What are food choices for prebiotics?
I will turn it to Anna. Just give me 1 second. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a really great thing. And I forgot as I was doing my demo. So one of the great sources for some prebiotics is all of those onion family, the alliums. So we had our garlic and our scallions and leeks. Anything in that family can be a really good source of prebiotic called inulin. And it's like our gut's favorite food. Sometimes people feel gassy when they eat a lot of onion, and that's because their gut bacteria are like super happy about it. So that's one great source. There are others like artichokes, or sorry, Jerusalem artichokes, which are really good. But yeah, there's a lot of different sources in terms of different prebiotics, and then lots of different kinds of fiber can also be helpful. So thinking about whole grains, different kinds of fruits and vegetables in general will give different pieces that our gut bacteria like to eat. But specifically prebiotics that have a lot of research supporting them is really that inulin from the onion family. So yeah, great question.
Amazing. Okay. So since we are hitting 1 o'clock, this is the official end to the presentation, everyone. Thank you so much, Anna and Yolanda, for sharing your expertise with us. Seriously.
Can I just show off the fish now that it's done?
Do.
All right, I got it here.
Spotlight
on the kitchen camera. I got it here so you can see. It's got our nice tender greens. We've got lots of sauce in there. We could also add a little bit of cornstarch or a little bit of soy sauce to thicken that sauce if you like a thicker sauce. But that's our finished fish dish with our delicious sauce on top. And it's all in one pan in just less than 10 minutes. And then I would serve it with a whole grain, which will give you the recipe for this as well. This is commonly eaten in different countries around East Asia, but it's really a mixture of different rices and also millet and pearl barley. And so it's really easy to make in batches and freeze. So this was frozen and I just thawed it for today. So thanks so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yolanda and Anna. Such a great presentation. The demos, I will have to try some of these recipes. And
yes,
I hope
we'll send out the recipes to everyone afterwards for sure.
Yes, okay, amazing. And I hope everyone is able to learn something new today. We hope to see you next month for our Wellness Wednesday. And if there are any lingering questions, Anna and Yolanda will be staying a bit overtime to wrap up. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.